So many of the people that would transcribe, the 3rd to 5th to 8th grade education, and they would take a priest's notes in the column sometime and just write them into the next thing. See, churches would trade their different letters that Paul had written or from the Gospels, and they would swap different texts that they had because they wear out, so they're constantly rewriting them. So a lot of the times there are these little imperfections, mostly insignificant, but the whole last 10 or 15 verses in Mark was not in the earliest transcripts. So things morphed in Christianity to the level of consciousness of the author that wrote them, if that makes sense. So in the early years, the mystics were out there, the desert fathers, a lot of the Gnostics were enlightened, not all of them, but there was this gnosis, G-N-O-S-I-S. Ecclesia is a Greek word for being called out, being called from within. Gnosis is knowledge from within. See, it was the Holy Spirit that brought enlightenment and education to people. It wasn't downloaded from human to human to human. It could be verified when a human spoke. Spirit would light up in you if there's truth. If there's not truth, there would be kind of a, not so much feeling. Has anybody experienced that before? So, I think young people have a really good BS meter. And so we can learn from them when we're saying something. You're not going to Disneyland because you left your socks on the floor. Maybe that's not the whole story. I think the kids can see through the smoke screens. So I don't want to get too far away from my notes here, but bottom line is in the first few centuries, the Holy Spirit was dominant and the ego was not. But then as time went on, as you got further and further away from Jesus' life and the original 11, left over the 12 disciples, as generations went on, some of the things began to go down. And then there was an emergence of the logical educators. The theologians started coming onto the scene. These were the guys that liked to debate. And did he really say that? I remember in seminary, I was so disappointed. Academic paper, I had to quote, didn't matter who I was quoting, as long as I gave a citation of who said it, the publication date of the book. But what if the book was rubbish? There's no way to tell truth from what something's not true. And so when I would just do an academic thing of like, well, how do I know what's really true? I don't. Do I rely on my gut, the Holy Spirit? Yes, in the end we do. But Christianity began to, you see, that people were hunted for the first few hundred years. Christians were really oppressed by the Romans. Christianity was this faction off Judaism. And it started out just a sect of Judaism, but then when Paul became a Christian and started leading people to God, to Jesus Christ, they discerned, and Peter also, that they didn't have to join or go through the Judaism tract. They didn't have to become circumcised. So they didn't have to convert into Judaism. So when that happened, when it opened it up, it became a world religion at that moment. Went all up, Greece, all up into Europe through Paul and many other missionaries at the time. So in the early years, this is really, really important. Christianity was 100 as far as they were concerned. Everybody was equal. The Constitution of the United States nails it pretty good. Unalienable rights. Everybody is equal. It brings us all on the same level. And Christianity really harnessed that, really embraced that. And the Apostle Paul said, hey, if you're a slave, don't worry about it. Just serve your master as you would Jesus Christ. I was a custodian at a church, and I got to tell you, that was a great job. A lot of days, I favor it over doing what I do today. We have to make tough decisions sometimes, business decisions. I'd way rather take the garbage out. It's a lot easier. I'm free to contemplate when I have a simple blue-collar job. When I'm, managing and doing things, there's less, contemplation gets displaced, so it's more difficult to be present to Spirit all the time. Okay. Original sin, the doctrine of original sin didn't show up until the 2nd century. And that was brought in by Irenaeus, who also suggested we come up with a canon, because there's loose cannons out here preaching all sorts of different stuff. And so we should get this on the rails and make it organized. And so you can really see the emergence of the intellect becoming to press back against spirit to make this thing orderly and rigid. Unfortunately, as time went on, a lot of these other things were lost. Some writings that we'll never know got burned or lost or whatever. Of the Gnostic Gospels, that which survived, we know the Gospel of Thomas is really powerful. It's a great one. Some of the other stuff is a little goofy, but it's all right. There were a lot of different things, and that goes to show that's what they were trying to harness, because there were some really goofy teachings that Jesus never really existed. He was just like Casper, just like a ghost that would come around. And then that's why in the First John, I can't remember, but our hands have handled whom we've touched. We know he was real because we witnessed him. We bore witness to him. Talking about Jesus. So they suggested a canon. In 313, the Edict of Milan, Constantine the Great made Christianity the official religion of Rome, which made it global overnight. And these priests and monks and different guys that went from being oppressed to being rubbing elbows with Caesar. And ego really got in the mix. And then they suggested a canon for the Bible at the Council of Nicaea at 325. It was ratified later at the Council of Carthage at 397, blah, blah, blah. So eventually what happened is Christianity started breathing out of a straw. This about God. It's not the experience of the presence of God, which is what the first 3 centuries was all about. Being in the aura of a great teacher is amazing. And we used to call this doc shock. And when we go to Sedona, I got my picture taken with Hawkins one time. And just so you know, he went through the final door. So he went to the highest levels of enlightenment. And when you get around super high voltage, you can feel the static charge coming off it. When you get around somebody that's been there. I remember an hour later, I was sitting in a restaurant with a couple of guys, and all of a sudden the guy next to me just went, whoa. I'm like, whoa, what was that? So I went inside, and I felt it from this side. That's where I'd put my arm around Doc. And it's just this, and I felt it, the Doc shock. And I was like, oh, that's what it was like, to be in the presence of Jesus, to be in the presence of the apostles, the power, the unfiltered power of the Holy Spirit without all that ego. It's transformational. It really is. It's powerful. The human will doesn't have the power to give up an addiction. But that kind of power, that divine power does. So when we surrender ourselves to the higher power, there's enough energy there to overcome any addiction, any habit. There's only one addiction. It's the addiction to the juice we get off identifying with something. To me, the only addiction is identifying as the animal nature. You know, they came up with this doctrine about sin. You know what sin is? It's just a lousy word for animal nature. Just when our instincts come up, our animal survival instincts come up, our ego comes up, they call that sin. And they would hurl this abuse at it. And so piety grew not sin, to not give in to your animal nature. But it wasn't always that way. Oh my. So the Great Schism in Christianity happened in 1054, but it had been building for a while between the Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church. There used to be 5 patriarchal centers. And then in 1054, finally Rome split off. It was a mutual agreement. The reason is because the distance, the languages, but primarily this, culture, cultural difference. And it's going to be their politics as well. Those differences was what broke apart the Great Schism. As a former missionary, seeing Christianity expressed in the United States is totally different than it is in another country, in Mexico or the Philippines or Haiti. It's totally different. Totally different, because the culture is involved in this experience. So I want to talk about then the other thing, the Crusades were 50 years after the Great Schism. And then I talked about indulgences. So the Reformation happened when Martin Luther became frustrated with the Catholic Church. And then it really splintered. There's some 2,600 or so denominations. There's things on the internet say 33,000. That's ridiculous. But there's thousands of denominations of Christianity today. Exist in the first few centuries. It has some cultural affiliation or familial family trait associated with it, like that man in the movie did. What I don't want is for people to continue to have a resentment towards any branch of faith for some radicals. There's this continuum of pure ego on one end, Holy Spirit on the other. You know, the mystical experiences are going to happen down on this end. Spirituality is that bridge between religion and Holy Spirit. That's where we live. So we're open to mystical experiences. We're not afraid of them. And we can see that, I remember the first several times I experienced a divine liturgy in Orthodox Christianity, I wept because it was so beautiful. Because I understood the mystical elements that they were demonstrating, having had mystical experiences. Everything was metaphorical in the great church to a spiritual experience. The incense, the singing, the chanting. There's a drone in the melodic singing, the chants, that is like the drone of spirit, the drone of life, the ohms. So beneath every political act of terrorism, there is one thing. When people have abused religion, any religious war, at the root of that religious war is a political position where people would incite hatred towards the enemy using religion. The founders of all of these religions would never have a rivalry. They would love one another and get along because they're from this. But it's knowing that at the source is one presence, one power, one Holy Spirit expressed through different cultural lenses. So, to answer the question, is unity Christian? Absolutely. The roots of Christianity are pure love, pure peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control, all that is good. So absolutely, unity fits on the continuum of Christianity. Blessings.
Thank you, Brian. So we are in a space of that early Christian experience of that presence and power and breaking free from anything that might have held us back in an allergy. Thank you, Brian, for bringing us that wisdom around Christianity. We're also in a flow. We are in a state of grace and of God's goodness as it flows through us. And this is our time where we get to be a participant in that. In another way, if you have given online and you want to bless this offering with your energy, there's a slip of paper in the pew in front of you. And if you want to give on text, there is a text to give option 74489. So we bless what we give with the energy of God that is within us in this affirmation. If you would join together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I circulate, and I am grateful.
When you're down and troubled, you need some love and care. Ain't nothing gonna your eyes and meditate on him, and God can brighten up your darkest hour. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, God's my friend. You just call a breath, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, through the storm and through the night. God will be right there. He will be. You got a friend, you got a friend, you got a friend in Jesus. You got a friend in Jesus, in Jesus. You got a friend. Oh, you got a friend in Jesus. You got a friend. Oh, you got a friend. Oh, in Jesus. You got a friend. Oh, yes, you do. In Jesus, in Jesus, you got a friend, you got a friend, you got a friend. In Jesus, you got a friend. Yes, you do, Lord. In Jesus, you got a friend, you got a friend, you got a friend, you got a friend. In Jesus, you got a friend, got a friend. In Jesus, you got a friend, you got a friend. In Jesus, 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 you got a friend. You got a friend. You got a friend. You got a friend in Jesus. You got a friend. 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 You got a friend in Jesus. In Jesus. You got a
Hello, everyone. Thank you. So today we are celebrating our high school graduates. And as you know, graduation from high school is a major life milestone. And so, graduates, we are so pleased that we get to celebrate this milestone with you. And we are so grateful for your presence in our church family and for your involvement in all of our community activities here and your contribution to the greater good. And it's really been our profound blessing to witness you grow and mature here at UCO, and you've just blossomed into beautiful young adults, and we're so proud of you. And so now, as you step into the threshold of your future and get ready to make your mark on the world, and we know it will be big, we would like to bless you and send you off with a gift from UCO, a digital subscription to Daily Word, so that wherever you go, you can stay connected to unity. And then also, Bob.
Hi, graduates. I messed up and didn't come and talk with you about 30 minutes ago, so sorry about that. I got caught up in the service. Reverend Brian. There he is, right there, yeah. I just want to echo a lot of what Linda said, but I want you each to know that today marks the day that you will become adult members of this church and all the privilege that comes with that. Know that wherever your path takes you, and it will be great and far and wide, that our hearts are always connected to your hearts, and we welcome you as members of Unity Church of the Hills.
Okay, so now we're going to recognize each individual graduate. And as we do, we invite parents and family members to stand up while their teen is being recognized. And the rest of you, if you would, please hold your applause until we're all done. Okay, thank you. All right, so first up is Aaron Banks. Aaron is graduating from Vista Ridge High School. He will be attending Concordia University. He will be majoring in jazz performance and special ed, and will also be... No applause. Next, we have Jessica Moorhead. Jessica is graduating from McNeil High School. She'll be attending Texas State University, and she'll be majoring in anthropology and archaeology. And she's been part of our child care staff here at the church, and we're very grateful to you for that. So much for holding applause. Next, we have Becca Thiemann. Becca is graduating from Cedar Park High School. She'll be attending Texas A&M University, and she will be majoring in engineering. And Jessica has also been part of our child care staff here as well.
Working with the International Youth of Unity, and I've had the joy of being connected to each of you in some small moments in time. And what I know is that you live unity. You live it from that purity of your experience of it, and I know you will be lights as you go into the world of this sense of love and appreciation and acceptance for everyone that you meet. And we know that you're our ambassadors, and we love you so much. I ask everyone to join together in blessing these beautiful beings. We welcome you and embrace you into this spiritual community, centered and committed to unconditional love, gratitude, and transformation. We honor your willingness to be a vital part of UCOH, to share and reveal the love of God here and everywhere. Together, we step into this dynamic journey of transformation, empowerment, and abundance, wrapped in God's ever-present love and acceptance. Welcome home.
As you embark on your new adventures, we're very excited for you. And everyone else, we'd like to invite you to visit our graduates out in the foyer. They'll be over at a table by the office, and they have more photos and information about their journeys. And we also have graduation cake in Friendship Hall. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Welcome.
Certainly want to recognize any other people that we have graduating in the year 2019. So if you are graduating from college or graduate school, as we know Jesse is, please stand. And Ellie is one of our signers. And speaking of signers, and I may be going out of order. Yeah, I'm going out of order, but that's okay. Catch up with me, Keith. Our, our signers, if they're going to take a little bit of a break during June, they're going to do, the different ones are doing some traveling. So if you have someone who would like to come who needs a signer, just let the office know and we can contact them and make sure that we know that there is someone here to sign. But congratulations, Ellie. All right. Now, there's one other thing that we always like to do, and we like to recognize our octogenarians on their birthday. And today happens to be the 86th birthday today of Miss Odette Aguiar. So please stand. We should all hope to have the energy she has at 86. All right, one other thing is that at 5 o'clock this afternoon at the Mount Sinai Baptist Church, there is a gospel concert given by their music department there. And Derek Lewis, who very often is sitting right over there at that piano at our concerts, is the music director there. And we want to invite people to come. They are over on Cameron Road. It will be a wonderful experience. So come join us. This week, lots going on. Check the back of your bulletin, but I want to bring special attention to the Energy Codes book study that starts on Tuesday evening, and of course the Saturday night events too. Registration desk is out there where you can register for any of these upcoming events. Our prayer chaplains will be over on the side to pray with anyone who would like to